Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. Sally spills Jill's medical crisis to Billy, Mariah snatches Dom. Sally Spectra will unmask Jill Abbott's medical extremity to Billy Abbott while Mariah Copeland abductions Dominic Winters. After Abby Winters and Devon Winters take Dominic home from ice skating, they might shoot him to wash up for regale. Devon and Abby wouldn't have any reason to suppose peril is brewing, so they wouldn't have their guard up. It looks like Mariah will sneak on the property and move Dominic to go on an adventure with her. Dominic knows Mariah and trusts her like he'd an aunt or another family member, so he should happily come on. Of course, Devon and Abby are in for a shock when they realize Dominic has dissolved. Although Abby and Devon will search the domain and talk to the staff, there'll be no sign of Dominic anywhere as night begins to fall. Devon will do his stylish to console Abby as she grows decreasingly fearful. It wouldn't be long until Abby and Devon are forced to involve the Bobbies, so Detective Burrow will pitch in with this hijacking case soon. In the meantime, Y&R spoilers say Sally will make an admission that's sure to throw Billy for a circle. Billy will be bothered when he finds out Sally tried to get in touch with Jill about Kane Ashby's chancellor offer. Still, the alternate part of Sally's concession will be what shocks Billy the most. Sally will explain that she was unfit to reach Jill and note that Snapper Foster took her call rather. Snapper is Billy's uncle and has been in charge of covering Jill's health off-screen. Sorely, Jill has taken a turn for the worse, so Sally's updates will leave Billy upset for his mama. Will Jill's medical extremity pave the way for her to truly patch effects up with Billy? Anyhow, Billy will no doubt want to speak with Snapper himself and pry the rearmost medical news out of him. Kane wants to assemble team of rejects with Phyllis and Billy. Kane might feel like the flush man in Genoa City. Still, he has assembled a platoon of rejects that he'll use for his gain. Kane is hiding behind his wildcard Phyllis. And now, he wants Billy to join them. He assembled these punishers ahead, but it snappily fell piecemeal. Kane's hoping that their platoon can work together this time around. Still, it's because it's happened ahead. If this feels like déjà vu, Kane wanted to work with Billy and Phyllis, but Billy proved himself to be a wild card who went 10 way ahead. But Kane wants to try working with them again. He offered Chancellor to Billy without consulting Phyllis. She's just chancing out this information, and assumed they would both have the Newman conglomerate all to themselves. In Kane's mind, he feels like a stranger. And he wants to team up with the rejects of Genoa City who can help him. In an interview with Soap Opera Digest, Billy Flynn explained the reason why Kane is plugging to work with all three of them. I suppose with Kane and Phyllis, what they're trying to achieve, they're both kind of killers, Flynn said. Same with Billy, and I suppose that's why I like the teaming of the three of them, because they feel like kind of the rejects trying to make effects in their own way. Kane and Phyllis sounded like a doubtful couple. But their professional pretensions have kept them on the same platoon. Phyllis thinks she deserves the Newman conglomerate because of how they treated her. Still, Flynn teased that Kane could be using Phyllis. He might hide behind her, so he comes out looking good in the end. But he also has to be careful about how he approaches their relationship. Kane doesn't want to upset Phyllis and give her the fewest reason to turn on him. He's going to keep making up with her and keep her around, Flynn teased. He'll continue to use Phyllis until she's no longer useful to him. What are your studies on Kane's dynamic with Phyllis and Billy? Do you suppose they would make a dynamic triad? Sound off below in the commentary section. Billy and Sally never had a chance. Billy and Sally no way had a chance to have a strong relationship because he keeps reconsidering the history. Billy is so hung up with the history that he keeps repeating it in his mind. He wanted to take down Victor, but Kane was the first one to pull the detector. Now, Billy has toyed with the idea of recovering his mama's company. He doesn't appreciate that Victor ripped Chancellor from his hands. Billy wants to prove it to himself that he can maintain his family's heritage. In his mind, he feels that he needs to cover the company. Billy made it clear in his discussion with Sally that he prioritizes Chancellor over their relationship. He has indeed given Abbott dispatches an alternate study. He was no way concerned about Sally's passions in the first place, which proves their relationship was doomed from the launch. Billy prevaricated to himself. The decision was formally made in his head. He wasn't going to choose Sally and their unborn together. Billy repeats the same pattern in all of his connections. He goes down the same helical, whether it's gambling, commercial spying, or getting vengeance. Sally's playing the same familiar part that YNR observers have seen ahead. She's been likened to Billy's sitter or warder. She lost what's made her a compelling character. It's been hard to watch Sally's transition from a classic schemer to a caretaker of a man who can't indeed take care of himself. The passion for her fashion career is long gone. Sally switched over to interior design before getting a position at Abbott Dispatches. She's lost a sense of herself since being involved with Billy, and it's sad to watch. The last thing these two people demanded was another relationship. Billy and Sally's cooperation was erected on a participated abomination for their separate spouses, who cheated on them. They allowed they could make commodity bigger and better. But at what cost? Sally's about to lose it all, and she could end up losing herself too. Buckle up, because Genoa City is about to helical into one of its most emotionally charged, innocently messy, and downright chilling bends yet, a plot where secrets unmask at the worst possible moment, a child vanishes into the night, alliances are rebuilt on shaky ground, and one doomed love eventually collapses under the weight of old prepossessions and undetermined trauma. It all begins still, nearly deceptively so, with Abby Winters and Devon Winters trying to enjoy a rare moment of domestic peace. After taking Dominic ice skating, they return home tired but happy, the kind of wholesome family scene that lulls everyone into a false sense of security. Dominic is transferred off to wash up for regale, horse laughs still echoing through the house, and not for 1 second do Abby or Devon suspect that peril has formally crossed their threshold. What they do'n't know what they couldn't conceivably imagine is that Mariah Copeland has slipped onto the property, her presence both familiar and deeply unsettling. Dominic knows Mariah. He trusts her. To him, she's family, an aunt such-like figure who has always been kind, gentle, and defensive. So when Mariah crouches down, smiles vocally, and whispers about going on a little adventure, Dominic doesn't vacillate. He doesn't question it. He takes her hand, and just like that, the unbelievable happens. As dusk settles and the house grows quieter, Abby and Devon realize Dominic hasn't come back. At first, there's confusion, also vexation, also the creeping bite of fear. They search every room, call his name, question the staff, comb the grounds, but Dominic is gone. As night falls, Abby's fear becomes raw and willful, her mind racing to the darkest possibilities while Devon struggles to stay strong, holding her together indeed as his own terror threatens to break through. The consummation that this isn't a simple accident, that their son has been taken, forces them into the agony no parent ever wants to face. The police are called, Detective Burrow weighs in, and what begins as a missing child case snappily turns into a full-bloated hijacking disquisition that will shake the Winters Abbott-Newman route to its core. Meanwhile, as this horror unfolds, another stunner detonates across city, one that will rattle Billy Abbott to his foundation. Sally Spectra, formerly walking on emotional eggshells, eventually comes clean about commodity she no way intended to reveal this way. In a moment thick with pressure and remorse, she admits that she tried to communicate Jill Abbott regarding Kane Ashby's stunning offer to hand over Chancellor. Billy is incontinently bothered, his old injuries glaring as he realizes Sally went behind his reverse where his mama was concerned. But that vexation turns to shock, and also sweat, when Sally reveals the rest of the story. Jill didn't answer because she couldn't. Snapper Foster took the call rather. Billy's uncle. The man assigned was still covering Jill's health. And Snapper didn't sugarcoat the verity. Jill has taken a turn for the worse. The words hit Billy like a punch to the casket. His complicated, untreated relationship with his mama suddenly feels unbearably fragile, and the possibility that he could lose her before they truly make peace sends him reeling. All the commercial battles, the vendettas, the power plays, none of it matters in that moment. Billy wants answers. He wants Snapper on the phone. He wants to know how bad it is, what's being hidden, and whether Jill's medical extremity could eventually force them to defy everything they've left unsaid for times. And as Billy's particular world fractures, Kane Ashby is still maneuvering pieces on a much larger chessboard. To the outside world, Kane looks like the richest man in Genoa City, a polished power player sitting comfortably at the top. But beneath that polished surface is a man who still feels like a stranger, someone who has no way truly belonged, and that sense of disaffection is exactly what drives his rearmost move. Kane isn't directing a traditional conglomerate, he's assembling a platoon of rejects. Phyllis Summers. Billy Abbott. People burned by Victor Newman, dismissed, undervalued, and discarded. Kane hides behind his so-called wildcard, Phyllis, letting her absorb the heat while he positions himself as the reasonable bone. He's done this ahead. He tried assembling this veritably triad formerly, only for it to buckle when Billy went guileful and pushed 10 way ahead of everyone differently. But Kane is induced that this time will be different. He's formerly proven how far he's willing to go by offering Chancellor to Billy without indeed consulting Phyllis, a move that leaves her blindsided and furious when she realizes she assumed the Newman conglomerate would be hers alone. In Kane's mind, this isn't treason, it's strategy. He sees himself, Phyllis, and Billy as killers, the misfits of Genoa City who have to make their own rules because no bone differently ever gave them a fair shot. Billy Flynn himself teased that dynamic, explaining that Kane authentically believes their participated stranger status could make them impregnable, but indeed he suggested at the peril lurking beneath the face. Kane may be partnering with Phyllis, but he's also using her, precisely managing her feelings, smoothing effects over whenever she gets too close to the verity. He knows better than to push her too far. Phyllis is unpredictable, brilliant, and dangerous when crossed, and Kane intends to keep her close for as long as she remains useful. Billy, meanwhile, stands at the crossroads of all these disasters, his mama's failing health, an abducted child rocking his extended family, and an attractive offer to reclaim Chancellor, the symbol of everything he's ever felt entitled to. And in the middle of it all lies the wreckage of his relationship with Sally Spectra, a relationship that, in hindsight, no way stood a chance. Billy is trapped in a circle. Obsessively replaying the history, reliving old losses, old grievances, old failures. He wanted to take down Victor Newman, but Kane beat him to the punch. He wanted to cover his mama's heritage, but Victor ripped Chancellor from his grasp. Every discussion with Sally made it clearer that Billy's precedences were no way aligned with erecting a future together. He told her, without vacillation, that Chancellor came first. Abbott dispatches slightly registered. Sally's passions were an afterthought, collateral damage in Billy's endless war with history. The verity is brutal. Billy made his decision long before he ever admitted it out loud. He was no way going to choose Sally. He was always going to choose the fight, the preoccupation, the need to prove himself. It's the same destructive helical observers have watched for times: gambling, commercial spying, vengeance. And Sally was cast into the same familiar part women in Billy's life always feel to enthrall the caretaker, the sitter, the one trying to manage a man who refuses to manage himself. In the process, Sally has lost everything that formerly made her compelling. The bold schemer with a burning passion for fashion is gone, replaced by someone drifting from interior design to commercial work, adhering to a relationship that stripped her of her identity. Watching Sally fade into the background of Billy's chaos has been heartbreaking, a slow corrosion of a character who formerly commanded every room she entered. Their relationship was directed on love so much as participated bitterness toward spouses who betrayed them, and that foundation was no way strong enough to support anything real. Now, as Sally watches Billy pull further down, consumed by Jill's illness, Kane's offer, and his own undetermined demons, it becomes sorrowfully clear that their cooperation was doomed from the launch. Sally is on the point of losing everything, including herself, while Billy marches forward, repeating the same miscalculations with unvarying determination. And brewing over all of it's the image of Dominic Winters, trusting and innocent, fading into the night with someone he no way had reason to sweat. Genoa City wouldn't be the same when he set up, and neither will the people left before, shattered by secrets, treason, and the ruinous cost of loving the wrong people for all the wrong reasons. As the night deepens and the hunt for Dominic Winters intensifies, the emotional pressure across Genoa City reaches a breaking point, slivering connections and exposing raw trueness. No bone. was prepared to face. Abby's countenance completely collapses once the police officially classify Dominic's exposure as a hijacking. The word alone feels stifling, echoing through the house as if it has weight and substance. Abby can slightly breathe, slightly stand, as the reality sinks in that her son didn't wander off or get confused, someone designedly took him. Devon refuses to leave her side, anchoring her with rumored solace indeed as his own mind spirals with guilt. He keeps replaying every second of the evening, every missed cue, every moment he didn't double-check the grounds. Operative Burrow methodically questions the staff, examines security footage, and canvasses the girding property, but the answers come sluggishly, sorrowfully so. When the footage eventually reveals a shadowy figure guiding Dominic down, calm, slow, familiar, Devon's blood runs cold. They fade her incontinently. Mariah Copeland. The treason cuts deeper than any foreigner ever could. This wasn't just a crime, it was a violation of trust, family, and love. Abby breaks down fully when Mariah's name is spoken audibly, blubbing into Devon's casket as the enormity of the situation crushes her. How could someone who loved Dominic do this? What kind of pain must Mariah be carrying to justify commodity so unbelievable? As the police scramble to track Mariah's movements, the rest of Genoa City begins to feel the ripple goods of the extremity, including Billy Abbott, whose own world is formerly teetering on the edge. After Sally's concession about Jill's worsening condition, Billy wastes no time reaching out to Snapper Foster. The call is tense, heavy with implied fear, and Snapper doesn't sugarcoat the verity. Jill's health has been declining faster than anticipated. Complications. Lapses. Query. Billy listens in stupefied silence, the wrathfulness and resentment he's carried for times dissolving into remorse. He realizes with painful clarity that he may have wasted precious time fighting battles that no longer count. For the first time in a long while, Billy isn't allowing about Victor Newman, Chancellor, or Heritage, he's thinking about his mama, alone and vulnerable, and whether she knows how important he still loves her. The possibility that Jill's medical extremity could be the final chapter forces Billy to defy the emotional wreckage he's left before, including his relationship with Sally. When he turns back to her after the call, his expression is undecipherable, torn between gratefulness and distance. Sally sees it incontinently, she's not his precedence, not now, and perhaps no way was. Her decision to tell him the verity about Jill was meant to help, but rather it highlights just how separate their paths have come. Sally walks down still, realizing she's been standing in the shadow of Billy's undetermined history for far too long. Meanwhile, Kane Ashby watches all of this unfold with careful computation. He reaches out to Billy again, framing his offer of Chancellor not just as a business occasion, but as a chance for redemption, a way to recognize Jill's heritage while reclaiming his own sense of purpose. Kane knows exactly which buttons to push. He positions himself as the supporter Billy no way had, the mate who understands what it means to be cast away and undervalued. But behind the scenes, Phyllis Summers is beginning to smell that commodity isn't right. Learning that Kane offered Chancellor to Billy without consulting her leaves her stewing with resentment. Phyllis doesn't like being overreached, especially by someone she was on her side. She confronts Kane, demanding to know where she fits into his grand plan. Kane reassures her, smooth and satisfying, telling her she's still essential, still his secret armament. He plays to her precariousness, reminding her of how Victor Newman treated her, how Genoa City dismissed her brilliance. Phyllis wants to believe him, but mistrustfulness lingers. She's been used before, and she knows the signs. Still, the appeal of power, of eventually getting what she feels she deserves keeps her tethered to Kane's route. As the triad's dynamic shifts, Billy finds himself torn between grief, ambition, and guilt. The news of Dominic's hijacking hits him hard, forcing him to defy the collateral damage of all these shattered connections. He remembers Mariah's struggles, her once trauma, her hopeless need to belong, and he wonders if everyone failed her long before she failed them. Across city, Mariah is on the run, Dominic whisked close as she tries to move herself that what she's doing is for the stylish. She tells Dominic stories, keeps him calm, adhering to the fantasy that she's guarding him rather than venturing him. But cracks begin to form in her resoluteness as the weight of her conduct becomes insolvable to ignore. She knows the police are searching. She knows Abby and Devon are alarmed. Guilt gnaws at her, but she's formerly gone too far to turn back fluently. The pressure builds with every fleeting hour, each plot feeding into the coming like a ticking time lemon. Sally, alone and reeling, begins to reflect on how she lost herself along the way, how her dreams, ambition, and sense of identity were still offered in the name of loving Billy. She starts to realize that walking down might be the only way to survive what's coming. As Genoa City braces for the fallout, one thing becomes sorrowfully clear: nothing will return to normal. Formerly Dominic is set up, Jill's health continues to decline, and Kane's precisely constructed alliance begins to fracture. Secrets are unraveling, commitment are being tested, and the cost of preoccupation, ambition, and undetermined trauma is about to be paid in full, leaving no bone untouched by the consequences still to come.